Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Big welcome to the panel. I was just saying in the back room, this is like the old school, the original panel that we had back when we started. So yeah, we're bringing back an old school show, which is quite appropriate, really, because we're talking about watches that have been resurrected, that have come back from the past, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But before we dive into that subject, which will need a lot of participation in the comments from, so everybody get your picks ready. But before we do that, Seiko Todd, you're in the hot seat.
I'm in the hot seat.
What are you wearing?
So we're gonna talk a lot about Seikos today, but I happen to be wearing my Omega Moon watch.
Nice.
This is the last of the 1861s from 2020, I believe. So, and it's the Hesselite with the. My camera's working better now. I got more light in here with the standard watch flown on the moon, and nobody else did that we're going to acknowledge, blah blah blah. So, but terrific watch. I love the heft. It's got a good. It's one of the things that like titanium watches. I have a couple, but I like the feel of some weight on a watch. So
yeah, I always like that, holding the hand. Whenever reviewing them, I always hold the watch in the hand, like I've got this Citizen, and it feels nice in the hand like that. But anyway, Patrick, what are you wearing?
Well, I've been a little bit silly of late with some odd watch purchases, so I've got a new one on the wrist today.
Gorilla.
This is the Gorilla GT Fastback Drift, a whole bunch of crazy words, but main fun thing though, it's my first and only wandering hour. So I got a pretty great deal on it, and it's a huge watch. It's like wearing a brick on your wrist, but it's kind of cool.
Not an actual brick watch. I think that failed, did it? Dave Fort noise. I'm guessing it failed.
I'd say his pizza reviews are great. His watches are not.
Yeah. I do like his pizza reviews are pretty good. Todd V, what are you wearing?
I am wearing a watch. It's a little foreshadowing for what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. It's the 1926 in the two-tone. Love this watch. It's a great dress watch, but it has sport capabilities, and I just love how thin it is. I was just measuring it. It's around 10 millimeters thick.
Nice.
And probably the best bracelet of all the watches in my collection. Just an amazing watch.
Awesome. Okay. Well, before I go, Bill, thanks for joining us. Bill, you stuck in nearly the full 5 hours on our July the 4th show. So thanks, Bill, for sticking in with us in the end.
You're a hero, Bill.
Yeah, you are a hero.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, Swiss, welcome. Brassic Time.
They wear watches.
That's right.
Welcome. Jeremy, welcome. He's considered getting a Gorilla Wandering Hour. Patrick, would you recommend it? Would you recommend your Gorilla watch?
I haven't had it long enough to make a solid recommendation, but the only thing that I can tell you, at least with my baby 6.5-inch wrist, I mean, it's a big watch, but it fits. I was shocked because I bought it, unseen, and I was just kind of dreading, oh crap, am I going to buy something that just is going to completely not work? But it works. So far, so good.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Paul. Hey, Robert. I just realised when I looked down at my wrist that I haven't actually put a proper watch on. I was wearing a Garmin.
Oh no!
Oh no!
What's happening?
I know. Well, it's titanium. It's titanium.
Okay,
I'm bigger than Patrick. It's like 46 mil. But let me just see. I better not show off my. Yeah, actually, yeah. There it is. I can't find it. There's so many. That's the problem. There's so many different faces for them. Like, how do you almost can't settle on one, because this has the always on display, so I can see it when it's not, when I'm not.
Okay, yours is more advanced than mine. Mine's an older one, so it always looks like the Rio Speedmaster. Mine does. It has 3 dials, and the circles are different colors.
Yeah, it's funny because when it goes into because that's in its always on display, so I haven't touched it, and then when you wake it up, it kind of lights up, but it always stays on. But the ones with the hands, the one what we're talking about, the analog watches, the ones with the hands. This is a sophisticated watch show where we're talking about the ones with the hands.
We talk about watches. We smart men.
Yeah, we smart with smartwatch. The smartwatch is making me dumber about watches. But the faces that have the hands don't really show up well on the always on display. So
Oh, okay.
just tend to keep it more digital. There is actually a Casio one, like a bootleg Casio display that you can get on that says Casio and stuff. But anyway, we've over explained that. Okay, so on this show, we're talking about watches that have come back from the past. So original watches that were made and then they've been reissued somewhat recently, I guess. But keep your picks coming in the thing. But Todd, Seiko Todd, you're going to kick us off with this one because this entire subject is your fault. I mean, it was your idea. But this is the watch that sparked it all, didn't it?
It did.
Talk us through it. I've got an original lined up, but you've got some show and tell as well.
Right. So this one came out recently. It's a limited edition. And Time and Tide did an article on it. I think I saw Gear Patrol did an article on it. Who else? There was a third one too I read recently.
Teddy.
Yeah. Teddy did it. Which is interesting. I'm wondering, does he sell Seiko? I guess he does.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
I guess
sure
he does. I didn't even think about that.
He's a Seiko guy now.
Yeah,
it's
Seiko
completely
guy now.
impartial review, but he's
And so Seiko has attempted to do not a reissue of the 6139, otherwise known as the Pogue. If it's a gold dial, generally speaking, the Seiko community considers them Pogues. Okay, I have 6 original 6139 gold dials of different vintages, different dial configurations, and that sort of thing. Because I just can't help myself, which is why my Instagram is Seiko Todd, right? It's a way of acknowledging the problem I have. And so this got reviewed recently on the Seiko forums, and someone, generally speaking, the Seiko forums aren't kind to these sorts of, not reissues again, but kind of acknowledgments of their history. And Seiko themselves, I was just looking it up, didn't call this a reissue. They called it what's the word I'm looking for? Something like an acknowledgement of the 70s race car colors and remembering our original 6139 automatic chronograph. And that's all they said about it. They didn't even use the word Pogue, which is good. And so this is a Seiko Prospex solar speed timer that is in a colorways similar to the original one. That's how I look at this watch.
It's kind of something along those lines.
Right. And so that's a good example. So here is, in fact, to help. So what they did is the black indicator ring that's around it is only on the Australian versions of the original watch. So here, I'll hold this one up. Well, here is an Aussie Pogue, as they call them. This is an Aussie Pogue. There we go. Let's see if I can get there we go. Right about there. Yeah, that's pretty good. So you can see the black indicator ring around it. Usually the gold dials had the gold indicator rings, but in Australia, through Singapore, handled these watches. And so this is a black ring. Now the originals also have the black ring will rotate. You can see that. This is what Pogue used to time his engine burns. He'd use the chronograph and he'd put the ring like on 10 minutes past wherever it was, and that would use that to also help understand where the time was. So anyhow, you can see that they did a pretty good job in terms of bringing back some of the coloring ways, but this is not a reissue. If we look at, and I don't think they're saying it, so I like it for $700. You can even get it, I think, for like $560. I saw it somewhere already, or something like that. I don't know. It's already. So if we go look at Detroit Mint, Dave DeGaulle, is it DeGaulle or DeGaulle? Right, we're arguing that one. So this is his Detroit Mint speed timer, which is a little bit of a homage to both the 6138, which has 2 subdials, and the 6139 case. So this case is much more closely aligned to the original. And it's a good, I always like this. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, he did.
In terms of capturing Like if we look at it like this, right? Back it up a little bit. I thought he did a really good job. So you can see that there's a buy. There's 2 levels of finishing here, which if I go back to the original again, you can see.
Is that a new one? Is that an automatic movement or a course movement?
So Dave used a mecha quartz
Okay.
in this one. Now, if we go back to Sears, here is a really, really good one that we were trying to figure this out on the Seiko Citizen Watch Forum. This is one I was finally able to capture. This is a Sears tradition. So Sears, it appears, may have picked up. I was thinking this is almost exactly the same case shape as the original, and you can even use a bracelet. This is like the original. Here we go again. See, I always have lots of props. This is a Australian bracelet, but this one is like the original Pogue. It's this H link bracelet, and so this one you could even use 6139 bracelets on. But this old Sears tradition is
it says tradition on it. It's like
it says tradition. This is what they sold them under
the
tradition label.
Yeah,
is a much better. I'll hold it up again. Is a much better. If we want to talk about a homage, not a homage, but a reissue. If we want to talk a reissue, this does it so much better than anything Seiko's ever tried. This runs a 7750.
Oh, so it's not a Hoya. It's not a Hoya movement.
Right. Hoyer actually has one. There's a Hoyer. Right. Some of these have Hoyer movements too, I think, but I'm not quite clear on which ones did. This is a 7750 in it. Great watch. 7750 is a workhorse.
Is the Sears the only one that has the 3 subdials? Because I've never seen a Seiko that looks like that.
Yeah.
Right. So Seiko never built anything like this.
Okay.
From a 3 subdial until recently. So their solar ones are 3 subdials. Their 6139s are all single. Single subdial on the bottom, and then their 6138s, which came out just a little bit after the 6139, which I didn't actually bring any 6138s, have the 2. So the 6138s look just like what Dave did. That's what Dave. So when he built this, he borrowed the dial configuration from a 6138 into a case that's almost identical to a 6139. So he kind of mixed the 2 speed timer styles together. I thought in a really good way.
My question that goes along with that is when Seiko's marketing department gets together, they're like, okay, we're going to make a new version, which they did. I wonder if the problem is for people mentally to make the switch of a single dial, subdial chronograph and go like, oh, that's not a chronograph. Like by today's standards, they wouldn't see that.
Right.
Because Seiko has no problem making an oddball watch. But I don't know that they were trying to copy, or I don't think they were trying to copy a Daytona, but I think Daytona created a paradigm that like, this is what a chronograph looks like.
Right.
Yeah. It's I mean, because that 6139 movement, it's very advanced, isn't it? I mean, they would struggle to recreate that because even the way that the date and the day revolves by pushing the crown in, I can't think of it. I'm sure there is a modern movement that does it, but I think it would be brutal trying to recreate that. They would almost have to.
It would be tough. It would be very expensive. So Seiko were to actually recreate something like the movement, like what Omega did with the 321. They went back and re-engineered the whole thing. How much is that? How much is an Ed White? It's a fortune because they're hand built, very special Omega Speedmasters. They could do it. Undoubtedly, Seiko has the ability to do that. I just think the watch would be horrendously, you said, it was very advanced. It's a column wheel. It's got a vertical clutch-based column wheel movement. Very advanced for its time, although you would argue that El Primero was more advanced in what it did, of course. But still was a very advanced movement. And to go back and do that, it would be an expensive watch. And I don't think they're going to ever do that.
They could just use their mecha quartz movement and kill the 24-hour dial and the other counter and just have a single counter.
Yeah, you could do it in a mecha quartz, kind of like what Dave did. You could do that. Yeah, I think you're right. You could make something, and if you were to put it in the original, just like Dave did, how You know how much these cost? What are these? $200?
Yeah, $200 or $300. They were a bargain. Yeah, I mean,
They're a
I think
bargain.
they still sell them. And he does a gold one, doesn't he, as well? There is a gold
Yeah,
one, and
he does a gold
silver.
dial one.
There is a review on my channel, actually. If anybody's interested, there is a review on my channel. So
Right. So anyhow, so the long and short of it is, I like the watch for $700. Solar Prospects. It has 100 meters of water resistance too.
yeah,
which is
I like this one.
good.
Yeah.
I have the white dial version of it. I love it. It's my son
Yeah.
keeps wanting me to sell it to him so that I will buy the yellow dial version. Like,
Yeah, and I think the only thing with these renders though is they're very generous with how the date, aren't they? Because here it looks like
Mhm.
the date is
You can't
near
read the
the
date.
dial, but in fact it's in a complete other dimension, isn't it? It's
I can't even read the date on my. I'm like, is it the right date? I don't know. Who cares?
A
it's
bunch
so
of old
set far
guys
back
on this
because
show.
of the solar.
Can't read that date.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Similar. It's not. It's sort of similar. You can't really see it, but on this Citizen, that is set back, but it doesn't seem quite far as set back. I think I
Right.
think that's just one of the things with the solar watches, isn't it? That I think if they maybe put a surround on it, or maybe a little, I don't know.
Yeah, because of the
If
solar cells. Yeah, they have to
If
space
Seiko
it
had quit
underneath.
listening to Sam and just got rid of the date, it would have been fine.
Boo.
Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. The date's all right to me. There's very few newer like of these speed timers that really appeal to me because I'm just more of a vintage guy. But I actually like this watch. It's something I'm considering getting, which has not been a modern Seiko like this for a while. That's not a dive watch.
Do it.
And
Do it.
they've
Get it.
brought
You'll
out some
love it.
great colors of this, haven't they? It's not just this one that they bought out. They've done a couple of other. I don't know if Teddy's got them on here, but they bought out a bunch of other different colorways. There's like a mossy green one. There's a blue, like a vintage blue, almost as these washed out colors. Because I think the first one that I bought, the one that Todd's now got, that was the white dial was probably the best one because the others were quite over the top. There was a blue one quite over the top. So his website's not working properly. Anyway, I wonder if he's got the other ones. Yeah, there you go. There's that sort of washed out grey blue one. I really like that one. And then there's like a greenish one. There's even one that they put on a leather. Oh, there you go.
There's a question, and I'm not sure if they're talking about the new one or the old one, but does the new one have the sapphire crystal? I can't remember.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm sure it's got. And actually, having said that, is a Seiko.
Yeah,
isn't it?
sapphire. It's a curved sapphire crystal.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think I've got a full review on the channel as well of that, the silver dial one, so you can check it out. But yeah, there we go. That's the one that I've got. And actually, Teddy's showing how far back the date is on the in here as well. Oh, they've reduced it actually. That 560 is a great price for that.
It really is.
Price. Anyway, okay.
I'm
well,
sure you can just wear that anytime you want, right? I mean, that's what you do,
Absolutely.
Todd. It's just to throw it on.
Yeah, throw it on. I just I keep an eye on it every couple of weeks and put it in my window to make sure the solar cell keeps charging. But I know it lasts for 6 months. But we're watch guys, right? I'm nerds. I'm always looking at my eco drives, like, okay, which one's a little low, and I'm putting them in the window to keep them rolling. So, it's a grab and go.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, that was great, Todd. Thank you for that. If you've got any questions for Todd on any of those, let us know in the comment section. But we thought we'd have a little blast down memory lane with some other reissues, and then we'll let the panel and the chat decide whether they are good reissues or bad reissues. And if you're new to the channel, I would love it if you subscribed, hit that thumbs up, bell notification, and upvote this live stream so that we can get more and more people seeing this, because I think we're not because of me, but because of the panel, I think we're having some of the most in-depth, interesting watch live streams. We don't do the drama. We've been covering some really great subjects recently with the great panel. Nothing to do with me. I'm just assembling the squad. Okay, let's after I did the little plug for the channel, let's go to Patrick. Your first one is, let me just get rid of the adverts here, and then let's show this. So this is your Credo. We briefly discussed it on the 5-hour marathon show, but do you want to take us through this?
Yeah, so the love and hate for me for a reissue is kind of making sure that you don't insult the people who have the original. And so what I actually love about the Seiko we just saw is it completely looks nothing like the original. So you're
Mhm.
paying your respects and your honor, but you don't have someone walking down the street, for example, with a vintage watch worth, tens of thousands of dollars because it's rare and unique, but then you've got someone standing next to you with a $500 watch that looks just like it. And that's kind of where when you find a perfect blending, it makes sense. Now, I will say the Crador version here, the original, the first Crador was a Seiko locomotive. And so a lot of people don't even know that fact, and that's why they chose this as their honoring of 50 years of the Crador brand. Is this is actually the first one. And they were so confused by back then about what Seiko was and what Crador was. It actually has both names on the dial. So it has
Mhm.
Seiko, it has Crador because they didn't know if it was going to be like Seiko Prestige or Seiko, Sportura. But Crador sort of became its own brand. But back then they didn't even know it was going to be. And this was a Gerald Genta design, and that's what sort of gives it its provenance. The original was really small, 1969, so it makes sense. The original was quartz because Seiko, of course, bringing in the quartz crisis, this was the biggest, most modern tech at the time. And I think it's a really cool watch, both old and new. But the new edition, they actually did more, I would say,
Hmm.
respect to the original drawings by Gerald Genta. If you really nitpick it, which I know we won't do here, but the hour markers and all that stuff on the new one is actually more consistent with the original drawings from 1969. They made it into an automatic, they upped the size, they put it in titanium, which that's a good or a bad. I'm not really sure because it's a skinny, small little watch. So it might feel like nothing in the hand. And that's kind of would be my scaredy factor of you hold it, you're just like, oh man, it feels like cheap plastic. So you won't know until you see it. But they made 300 of them. I think they're pretty cool. I tried to put my name on the list for one when I was down in Miami, but they told me that I don't have a chance in hell. And maybe I'll reach out to some other friends and see if they've got a better chance. And I said I'd love to get my hands on one, but the the only real thing that you can tell the difference here now, it's only branded Crador, and it has automatic on the 6 o'clock position, which I actually don't like. I wish they didn't put that. I think it makes the
Hmm.
dial just a little bit busy, but the good and bad of it is I think it's a great recreation. It's got enough of a difference that it doesn't look or pretend to be the original, and I think that's the way an honoring recreation should be.
Okay. So you're saying this is one that you think is a good one. That bracelet I didn't realize on the reissue. It really looks like the AP Royal Oak, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the same idea as the AP because I mean Gerald Genta, no offense, Gerald, but he didn't really have very many unique ideas. He just did the same thing over and over again. And so instead of picking a eight-sided, this one is all hexagon based. So it's the same shapes except in eight sides, it's now six. So all of the little pieces are there. And Gerald Genta also created the Cartier Pasha. So it's got the Vendome lugs like the Pasha does. So it just has little pieces of recycled Gerald Genta in it.
The head of the watch is handsome, but the way the bracelet meets the head makes me crazy. My OCD
Yeah.
is going off the chart.
Yeah, that was what put me. I mean, I wouldn't go for this watch anyway, but yeah, and it's interesting the crown at 4 o'clock position, isn't it, as well? Which doesn't
Mhm.
you don't usually see on a more of a dressier sports watch.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah, very
I was
interesting.
shocked when I walked into the store and I was pretty much like, man, I'd love to put my name on the list. He was like, you don't have a chance in hell, and they're pretty much all accounted for. And I go, really? There's other people who like this ugly watch?
Well, somebody's going to throw it on Chrono, aren't they, straight away? So you just have
Oh,
to
yeah.
keep an eye out. But what I probably be an eye watcher. What are they going for?
Yeah, I was
I
asking
mean,
that.
its MSRP is 12K.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
Oh,
it's not
Wow.
a cheap watch.
Wowzers.
At that price, I really want the bracelet to match the head. really bugging
Perfectionism,
me.
imperfection. I think I used that phrase in my other one. Okay, so you're offering this up as a good one, so we'll have to see what the commenters think of this one. Okay, cheers for that, Patrick. So we'll get rid of this. So next, Todd, we'll go to you. The Lunar Pilot, the fan favorite.
Yeah, this is still a favorite watch of mine, and I really wish that they would do an automatic version of it. I know it would exponentially be a more expensive watch, but what a phenomenal watch as a quartz watch. It is big. I have
It's big.
I have a 7.2-inch wrist or so, very similar to Sam. It spans it. It's big, but I do love wearing it. And it would be kind of fun to see that in an automatic version. But I don't. The price to do an automatic with that, what is that? It's a 1/10 of a second counter, would be astronomical. But I like every time a new version of this comes out, I want the one that's titanium and gold. I want the meteorite one. I want the white and blue one. Like I think it's a great watch, and it does have, and it's enough of it. It looks a lot like the original, but not at the same time. Like what Patrick said, it's a proper homage to the original for the price. It's a phenomenal watch.
Yeah, and then this did go into space, didn't it? It didn't go on the moon, though, did it? Or did it? It just was on a space flight, wasn't it?
Well, no. I think Thomas
it-
wrote about that. They did bring the original one on a moon one time when the when the Omega failed aboard.
Oh, yeah.
One of the,
and it was it was the astronaut's personal watch that he brought
Mm-hmm.
along. There's a lot of stories about did Bulova, hey, wear this watch. Also, no one's really sure how that happened, but the original went for like $1.6 million at auction.
Wow.
Because the Speedmasters, when the astronauts wear a Speedmaster, they're technically owned by government and paid for with tax dollars. So they don't get to keep those watches. When they're done, they have to return that watch back in. Now, Omega gives a watch, I think, to most of these guys after the fact. But the watches actually worn to the moon or in flight are not out for the public. They go back to the government. So that Lunar Pilot that was for sale was very unique because it was personally owned.
Yeah. These really have gone up in price a lot, haven't they? Because I remember you could get one for less than around 200. I think you could get them on originally when they came out and nobody really knew what they were, because they've been out for 8 years, maybe 7 or 8 years.
I think I got mine for like 280. Yeah.
Yeah, and now they're this is Bulliver's own RRP price, but even on Amazon, where you could get a decent price on them. And then the quirk with this as well is that you had to go with the bracelet one, didn't you? Because you couldn't fit the bracelet to the strap version. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So you had to go.
Apparently, the pins are in a different place on the bracelet one than they are on the strap version.
Yeah. Okay, so we're offering this one up as a good reissue. Excellent. Okay, and then I will go with one of mine. Let me just check. Actually, I'm not still showing. Let me just go with mine. So mine. Oh yeah. So I went with another space-ish one, and I talked about this on the 5-hour live stream the other day. What a Time and Tide is desperate for me to join their thing. I think it's they know that I'm sharing, so they want to make sure that everybody knows that they've got a mailing list. So Neil, I briefly talked about this on the show the other day, but Neil Armstrong, obviously very famous for wearing a Speedmaster on the moon, and then actually he didn't wear one on the moon, did he? He took his off to be in the landing module in the lunar lander. But his personal watch, it's suspected, was this Douglas, a weird dive watch from the 60s, which was made, I believe, by a French company. Oh yeah, French skin diver there. And this was found in his personal effects. His brother, when he passed away, his brother sold this watch, and this was found in his personal effects. Yeah, very weird. It was a dive watch. It had a plastic bezel, ratcheted bezel, so it's unidirectional, like a lot of those dive watches were that had plastic bezels. But this was his own personal watch. There's actually quite a good advert here that they were in England, in America they were Douglas, in the rest of the world they fell under Walbrook was the name. So 36 mil diver, and then a company sprang up on Kickstarter. They can't find an image of him wearing one, but they've sort of weaved the story that because he wore this a lot, he might have worn it when he was doing his test pilot days. But anyway, long story short, a company sprang up. I'm offering this one up as a good reissue. A company sprang up, called themselves Walbrook, and then they recreated this watch using Miyota movement, made it a contemporary size, so it's not 36, I believe it's 40 mil, a 40 mil version. And I backed the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter one, it was a bit, they'd used a real basic Miyota in it, but then they upped the Miyota movement, and I think they've did a great job of this one. I ended up selling it to a friend, but absolutely fantastic. So I'm offering this up as a good. They actually made the bezel. The bezel wasn't plastic anymore either. The bezel was metal. So they really took the spirit of the original and really made it like resto modded it up to being modern specifications, but still with the look and feel of the original. There's the two side by side. So yeah, because I had one of the originals and they were base metal cases. They didn't really last that, and the plastic bezels didn't really last. But so I'm offering this one up as a good reissue.
That's probably actually better than the original, like you were just talking about in many ways. So I think the originals may have been pin lever. I'm not certain if they were.
Yeah, they were very basic, and a lot of those divers at the time, like the Alaster, and there was quite a few of them, weren't there, with plastic base metal cases and then plastic bezels. And actually, what's good is that Walbrook's now gone on to making a whole range of watches inspired by that one, but they've taken the theme and then rolled with it. I wish they would make a quartz version actually of this one. I think it would be a quartz version would be quite good as well as the Miyota one. So yeah, I'm offering this one up as a good reissue. Okay, let's go back to. I'm just seeing if there's any in here. So let's just see what we've got here. We've got. Thomas is saying the Longines Ultrachron was a good reissue of the Longines High Beat watch in 2020. The Cartier have a huge back catalogue of watches reissued. Yeah, Watch Chris, friend of the channel, did a comparison between the original Ultrachron and the new reissue of the Ultrachron. So if you're interested in finding more out about that watch, in fact, let's pull it up so I'm showing a visual.
Yeah, Thomas, it brings up a good point though. In general, is that Longines I think is doing a really good job using some of their back catalog to bring up watches. Like I have the Big Eye chronograph that they did off something they found that they didn't even know they did from the 1930s, and it's just a really, really terrific watch.
Yeah, they're doing like a mixture of vintage reissues, but also like fantasy reissues, aren't they? Like watches that they wish, kind of looking back on what they would have made if they had all their knowledge now, what they would have made back in the day, a retrospective of these, what do they call it? Like a retro-futuristic thing where they've imagined watches that they might have made in the past, but made new versions of them, which I think is really cool. Like I think the Spirit watches are a lot like that, aren't they? They're kind of vintage looking, as if they did originally make them, but they didn't really make them like that. Awesome. Okay, next one up, we'll go back to you, Todd, and this is the photo here. You sent a photo over.
So there'll be a little bit of a story behind this one. So we have to remember that Rolex and Tudor are the same company. they're owned by the same parent company. So that's why I brought this one up, because I love the Tudor 1926. I own one, wearing it. And I loved that they really were faithful to the design of this original Rolex Oyster Air King. So in every way, it is the same case, crown, dial layout, handset, everything. And yet what I have now is, I love a vintage watch, but I have a watch with 100 meters of water resistance, with a solid movement, one that will be able to take daily beating if I want to, as opposed to, as much as I love having vintage, I'm not like Todd, where I'm like, I can't keep them in cases. I like to wear my watches, and I don't want it to die because I've accidentally exposed it to a magnet or something. So I love this reissue I consider it a reissue, although I don't think Tudor ever claimed it as one. It was one where once I got it, I was like, boy, this looks a lot like a vintage Rolex. And it doesn't get much closer. Even the indices between the numerals or the triangle, it's spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a win.
How old did this come? And so when this came out, I think it kind of got some mixed reviews, if I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's a quiet champion of the
Yeah.
brand. What's nice about them, they still have Salida movements or ETA movement, depending. So the price point, like you can still buy one brand new at right around the $2,000 price point.
Mhm.
So you don't have to spend a fortune. It's not cheap. I know it's not cheap, but at least it's kind of in the right value proposition of having a 1950s Rolex.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that is definitely, and you can definitely, even if they don't say it 100%, you can see the nods to it, can't you? The indices and the placement of the numbers that they've used.
The numbers are spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Spot on.
I like
The
really
leaf hands are exactly the same, you know, and
Yeah.
nod to Sam, it's got a date. Look at
Exactly. They've added a date. That's the kind of the Back to the Future we like to see. Oh, and
Yeah.
that one's got that one there. That Rolex has got the crazing on the dial, the lacquer, the way the lacquer's split.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a texture dial on Tudor. It looks like, right? Is that
it is?
the deal?
There's like it's a
waffle or something.
It's like a very subtle waffle. It's hard to. It's that render's terrible. That I just pulled that from their website. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can bring it up, Sam, on this one, on my picture.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
You'll see that there's a slight, maybe not.
A good macro lens.
Yeah, there's a slight waffling pattern or something on there. A grid pattern, a fake guilloche, a stamped guilloche looking pattern. But nonetheless, yeah, it's an interesting dial. Catches the light nicely.
Yeah, no, I like it. Love it. Cool. Yeah. Great pick there. So we need to find one. We need to find one that's a bit of a bust, don't we? I actually picked one that Todd, I thought you were going to pick, but I picked it. And this is you can talk through this one because I think the reissue, they really missed the mark with it. This is your Bolivar Stars and Stripes.
Oh yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. And the reissue, which I also have.
Which is here.
Is there, which is dead ringer for the original, except it's huge.
Yeah, I think that's where they went wrong with it, wasn't it? It is absolutely massive.
It's massive. I actually sold my original one I bought, and I bought one back when I got the original Stars and Stripes, just so I could do a comparison between the two. And so, yeah, I mean, you put them side by side, they did a fantastic job in terms of identical. It's virtually identical to the original. I still have the original on my desk from the show from there it is. This is the original 1970, though I realized my crown popped off. I gotta find it, but it's a two-piece crown, and so I'm like, it's here somewhere. But you can see now, you can see they did the rocket hands. It did it on a mesh bracelet. This is actually this mesh bracelet. It's the Bolivar. It's actually from the reissue. So the reissue bracelet fits fine on the case because you can't find these original bracelets. They don't exist anymore. But yeah, they did a great. What's that?
What size is yours?
So this actually, think about this. Right. So 1970. This is, I think, a 40, which you should be. And the reissue, I think, is, yeah, there it is. That's the original, like mine. You can see the yellowed, slightly yellowed, I don't want to say bloom and that sort of thing. Mine has done the same exact thing. But if you look at the new one, it's, how big is it? I think it's like 44.
I was going to say at least maybe 46. And isn't it quartz?
It's quartz. It's the same movement you have with your Moonwatch, the Bolivar Moonwatch. The high frequency quartz, which is fine, but it's just, even with the hidden lugs, like Seiko can do this with their big divers, and it works for me with the hidden lugs like that. But this thing is just enormous. Yeah, maybe it is like 46 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's odd that they would make it so big with a quartz. There's no reason to make it big.
Bulova was doing all of these big, like the Moonwatch, really big. I think if you look at their precisionist movement, so the Bulova precisionist are the ones that have the really nice smooth sweep hand,
Yep.
the high frequency quartz.
They were beastly, weren't they? Some of them.
They're beasts, and I think part of it was in order to. I thought maybe the construction, but they do make the high frequency quartz in smaller watches.
Yep.
But they slowed it down a little bit so that for whatever engineering reasons they slowed it down, which is fine because it's a chronograph. So it doesn't matter that the second hand beats twice a second anyway, right? On your Moonwatch.
Exactly.
The one that's running all the time, it's just every half second. So
I used to own that one. You have one picture. I used to that is a boat anchor.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's huge.
It looks almost like the early Formex watches as well, I always think. But I noticed this one is in the if I can go back to the previous one, isn't this weird where they've done like a partial cutout of the dial, but you mainly get in just the date. It seems really like an odd cutout there.
It's an odd.
What's the I don't know what the point is.
Yeah, I don't get
What the
that.
point of yeah, it's funny because all of their vintage reissue stuff, Bullover has been absolutely knocking it out of the park, haven't they? With the with some of their stuff that I was just noticing that chronograph that they've got with the this racer chronograph is awesome, isn't it? And then the Jetstar, the Devil Diver that they did, yeah, they've been doing some awesome things.
Yeah, they have
doing some awesome things recently.
Their chronographs though seem to be just huge, and I don't know. Most of them, I don't know.
How much on this 42 with a 22 mil lug width. So yeah. Awesome. Okay, well there you go. So we're offering, that was our first kind of, the reissue was a bit of a dud, I think. So let me just get rid of that one. Todd V, we're going back to you with this one.
Seiko Todd's gonna have a lot to say on this one. This thing's a killer.
It's killer.
I love this. I love this watch. And I love a lot of what Seiko 5 has been doing. Like I would rather put money in a Seiko 5 than a Swatch, I think, any day of the week. You know, they're just fun. You know, you can get them in all kinds of colors and combinations and variations and different bracelets.
Yeah, they've done a great job. And they look at this, they brought back the original Seiko 5 Shield, which they've eschewed for their more modernized one, and they brought it back. That's spot on. I love it. I love that one.
You probably have the original of that watch somewhere.
So here's the deal. So these are the 70, what do they call it? 70-meter skin divers, the original ones, Seiko 5s. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that you can go down, and I just can't go down that rabbit hole. It's just I'm down my own rabbit hole enough with the chronographs. I can't do this one. I love them. I do love them.
I mean, if you want one, you got to jump on it because it's a limited edition of only 15,555.
Yeah.
So
you can get a cheeky little discount. I've noticed some they're going for less than retail. These I've noticed, because I was toying them up, but I just can't. It's got isn't it got a weird movement? It's got one of the disappointing movements in it, I think.
Does it have the
4R
non-hacking? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's their basic movement, but it's a Seiko.
Cool watch.
How much are they asking?
Second-hand function. It does have hacking. This one is. Let's just see, because I think you can get a little cheeky deal on them.
Don't shop on the website.
Yeah. Look at Amazon 311. Well, that's actually a pretty good deal, that isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, there's another great reissue. I love this. I love this one. I mean, I don't know if it's technically a reissue, but I love this. I wish it was. I wish it was a bit cheaper. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I mean, I'm interested to see what that bracelet's like. Yeah,
it's an automatic.
Yeah.
I bet that bracelet's comfortable. That looks like a whole different departure for a Seiko bracelet.
Yeah, I think this looks, and they do a reverse panda. That is the reverse panda. They do a panda as well. I think they do a blue one as well. They're doing like a limited edition one. Okay, awesome. That was another good reissue. Let me just go back to. Did I find it? Yeah, I've got another good one as well. Actually, we're doing too positive here. I loved this Hoya or the Tag Hoya Octavia. I loved everything about it. I don't love that it's $4,000, but you can get a little cheeky discount on them. I did look at one in a shop, in a store, and there's a Hoya there's a Tag outlet in the local shopping mall here in Orlando, which amusingly replaced the Invicta outlet, which I think is weird. But anyway, so this one is a reissue of this vintage Ortavia, or it's a reissue of a few of them actually, but they didn't quite capture the vintage one because they've obviously used a standard chronograph movement in here, so they've got all the pushes on one side. Whereas one of the iconic things about the Hoya movement was it the caliber 12?
Yeah, it was caliber 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes.
Yeah, the crown on the other side, didn't it? And then the pushers, which obviously they would have to recreate the entire movement, wouldn't they? In order to do that, they'd have to.
They do that with the Monaco, though. I believe they do that with the Monaco reissue. They did stick the crown on the left.
Did they? Because
I believe they did. It's running a Salita or something weird. I don't know what they did.
Let's have a look. I'm spelling it wrong. Here we go. Okay, so there you go. Yeah. Oh no, is that no, is that a new one? Is that retro? 2022. Yeah, you're right. So this is a new one.
Yeah, they did do that.
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
I think there's a different watch. Yeah, here we go. Sam, I'm going to put this in the...
That says, and because
that's a re-edition.
It's a re-edition. They call it the Caliber 11, which really frustrates me because that isn't a Caliber 11. It's totally different movement.
And they kept Hoya on the dial as well.
Yeah.
Which is great. $5,000 for that's not bad, is it? I suppose if it is a Salita though, but
I think it's a Salita. I've forgotten what's under the hood.
Okay, awesome. Hoya the 12 sometimes.
I'm trying to find it. That but the 12-hour register on that is a different model.
Oh yeah, Paul's asking if you want to know what I think of the Tag Heuer Kith Formula One reissue. I've got a review. I bought one, a review and unboxing. Now, a very nice gentleman in Germany owns it. Okay, let me. Okay, so let's go back to do this. Todd, are you sending something in there? No, we'll go.
No,
back.
I couldn't find it.
Okay, let's go to. So that was a good one. This is
there was a micro brand Hemmel that made a version of that with the 12-hour that looked exactly like that. It was a really nice homage.
Oh yeah. Here's one that I think is. I think they tried to have a go at it, but they didn't. I don't think they captured the original spirit, and that was this. So this is the Citizen Bullhead. Of course, Dave at Detroit Mint also has his version of this as well. But I always like this. I don't know what you call it. The silhouette of a chronograph subdial, but it had the date on it. I think that was what was iconic. Also, Quentin Tarantino made this watch iconic, the gold version in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Apparently, these are pretty brutal to get a working version of, these original ones. Now, Citizen did remake it in a quartz version. These were automatic, and they did an okay job of it. I just don't know whether apparently the bracelets are pretty sketch, but I don't know. They
159. Where is that?
Here's an original
shop.
Yeah.
Here's an original.
Oh, there's the original. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
There it is. And it has, the nice thing about it is it has the original Citizen bracelet.
Yeah.
Now it needs a service. So I have it sitting on my watch bench. It's going to go somewhere at some point. The problem with the originals, I think, Sam, you were talking about this too, and it's got the classic bullhead. I love the bullheads. I got two Seiko bullheads, but is that these have been Frankensteined to death, and it's hard to find one that's hasn't been mutilated in some way.
Yeah, this one, I think it's okay. I mean, it's quartz. It's funny, when I went to Japan, they had multiple versions of this, far more than they have that are available in the US. But I think they did an okay job of the reissue. It's just I don't think it quite captures that original spirit of this one. Like the hands are slightly different, and then I always loved the way they had the date, the date at 6 o'clock, which probably quite hard to recapture now, but yeah, that was another one that I had coming up, and then
I think you just put a watch on my shopping list right now on that Joma Shop one. I might have to find that one.
This is one that this is actually a Swatch sort of reissue, I'll say. But originally, Swatch was famous for these Keith Haring watches. They had the graffiti artist Keith Haring, who sadly passed away in the late 90s, I believe. But these were iconic Swatch watches. He designed these himself. Actually, you can see on this picture is one that he signed. Unfortunately, they've not a lot of them have lasted. But if you can get them, they're around. They're over maybe like $1,500 each if you can get a working one. Swatch tried to capture some of the magic recently last year by using his Mickey artwork, but I just don't think that. First of all, he's known for this Mickey, but not really the others. They're not like iconic Keith Haring, I don't think, and I also just don't think they look that good, to be honest. Especially this one looks real freaky. So I don't. It was a shame, really, because when I probably would have bought if they'd reissued these sort of the bolder colors. More with the sort of the stick men type characters that he does the outline of the men. But yeah, I thought this was a bit of a fail, honestly, on Swatch's point of view, especially that one where they haven't made it properly fit in the dial. And then this one had the image was printed on the underside of the crystal, not on the. If you see, that it's partly the hands are partly obscured. Yeah. So
didn't you have one of the original ones that they did at one point?
I had the Damien Hirst one. The Damien Hirst, the mirror spot Mickey.
Okay.
Yeah, Damien Hirst one. Yeah. Okay, let's just see if we've got the let's just see if we've got some more. The chat's coming through. Mark says he's a big
I like you, Mark.
Yeah, Tissot PRX Gold PVD reissued. Is the PRX a reissue? I don't know if I know that. It was.
The style.
Yeah.
But was it a Tissot style, or is it just homaging that style of the 70s?
They claimed it was. I thought they claimed it was one of their designs.
I think it is. I'm just not entirely sure.
Yeah, I feel like I saw one and it didn't look much like the current one, but I don't know if they made many of them. But I kind of remember seeing that and being like, I don't see the relationship. But
yeah.
And then
Von Cool has about the Boldova Computron. I love those. I love,
and that was a reissue, wasn't it? That was definitely a reissue. Yeah,
but that was right, spot on. But of course, probably much more stable technology than they used back in the 70s. I think those are pretty cool. Who else didn't a high end manufacturer reissue one?
Yeah,
was it Gerard Perregaux or right?
Yeah, because Dave's got it, hasn't he? Dave's got one. The Gerard Perregaux version.
Yeah,
there you go.
I guess that's a good one to lead into because the new one that they just made, I don't understand the pricing. So the first original two were in all ceramic with ceramic bracelets. The latest one is a titanium bracelet, but the price went up like $3,000. So I don't really get it. And I mean, I'm sure they'll say that whole titanium's harder to work with, but I think ceramic's harder to work with than titanium. So I don't get the price bubble on that.
So is it this one, Patrick? The casquette? It is the casquette, but is this the titanium one?
Oh, that's the ceramic one.
Okay, let's have a look.
And so they just released it in titanium, and I mean it's nice looking. I just didn't realize the price when it came up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there's the original casquette. Yeah.
So it's an interesting reissue, but it would be on my bad list because the current version, it's starting to creep way too high. They're getting greedy.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's have a look at that one. See if there's any others. The Hamilton PRS. I don't know if I know that one.
PSR. Isn't that one of those digital ones?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thomas is right about the Glycine Airman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that those are good.
Yeah,
those Hamiltons,
$550 though. It still seems a little
but they're meaty things. You probably get them cheaper on Joma Shop. They've been out for a while.
Yeah, I mean this is Joma Shop, so.
Oh really?
They were $7.15.
Oof.
Right.
If only Joma Shop was legit, I could buy from them. They are 100% legit.
Yeah, they're good.
They are good. Joma Shop is good.
Not
Not sponsored. Okay, the last one that I had then to kind of bring us home in the last 6 minutes was, this is a quirky one. Let me go back here. So originally, the Rolex Deep Sea with the ginormous crystal on it. One came up for auction recently, didn't we? In the I think Periscope. But yeah, these were quite well known. They were made for obviously deep sea exploration, and they had like a monstrous. There's no side pictures, is there? There you go. There's the side
Why
profile
isn't
of
it?
it.
Why is it a gold, like precious metal two-tone for deep
Why is
sea?
it two-tone?
What are we doing?
Well, Periscope did a really good one, because I think one came up for auction. It was supposed to be 100% original. I don't know the story, but he did a really good. And they were, I think they're really tiny as well. I don't think they're that big. But what I thought was interesting was the why anybody would reissue this or homage it, but they must be selling them, because there's like different versions of it now. But the
Spinnaker.
Yeah, the
Spinnaker.
Spinnaker. Yeah, the Spinnaker Picard, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So they
I'll
did
tell
it.
you, every time this comes up in my feed, I think it's a good looking watch. But then I see it from the side. It's like, no.
Yeah, let's see. Do you know what? They haven't even got one from the side. There you go.
There you go.
It's very similar case shape. It's not quite as bold, is it? It's quite as bold as the Rolex is, but it's definitely they've definitely been going for that, haven't they? I think Ben.
Straight on. It's a good looking watch. Straight on. That's a good looking watch.
I mean, good looking watch and named after my favorite Star Trek captain. Yeah, that's a winner.
You need to get this. Yeah.
Yeah, you should get one, Patrick.
Yeah, Ben at Ben's Watch Club, he reviewed one of these ages and ages and ages ago. But yeah, this is I've done a lot of Spinnaker reviews, but they've never offered me one of these for review. But yeah, that's quite a little cheeky homage, little nod to the original Deep Sea. And then did I have any others? Let me just see if I. Oh yeah, I actually did. I was the Brigade Type 20 as well, isn't it? I don't know whether you would say this is a reissue or has it been a consistent model the entire time that they've sold. But even today, these are the original ones. But even today, the modern ones look very similar.
Yeah, because that's a formula too. The Type 20, Type 21, Type 22, I believe, right? Those have to be built to a certain spec to be called that.
Yes.
And I think that's where that comes from, right? Isn't it French? I've forgotten.
So it's a military thing, yeah, because it's called. They took the name from. Didn't they take the name from the actual what the spec was called or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not completely fluent on it. I love those though. I'd love to get a Brigade 20. Yeah.
They are good looking. They got the date on them. Awesome. Cool. Well, let's see if there's any. We've got 3 minutes. Yeah, Thomas Glycine. Yeah, I've been tempted at that monstrous Picard. Oh yeah, Von Krull says he's been tempted at that monstrous Picard.
Me and you both, Von Krull.
Yeah, the PRX was a reissue of the 70s Sea Star.
Okay, yeah.
Let's check that out actually, because so Tissot. Okay. Oh, so the Sea Star is still a current line, isn't it? Let's just see Sea Star. See if there's a 1970s one. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, that looks pretty spot on, doesn't it? That does look similar to a PRX.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a good call.
Yeah, that Sea Star.
There's lots of variations.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. The question answered. Myth busted. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for being so active in the comments. Sorry if I didn't get to any comments. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Big thanks to the panel. And we'll see you all next time on Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Bye, everyone.
Happy Sunday.